Okay, awesome. So we are good to go. First and foremost, thanks everyone for a little bit of patience there as usual. I know sometimes there's typically finding my later starts are becoming a little more common, or I guess that's more of the delayed. Hey, let's try and get as many people to join starts as possible. Yeah, so we're gonna see how this time works out. Again, I know this was like the second, I think, most likely time that we could do. So far, actually seeming like it's turned out okay. With that in mind, we're just going to go through a couple things right now, and it might not necessarily be too much. I really want to focus on just a lot of the big bulk items for because we're pretty much solidifying a lot of what we need to do slash just anything that may come up kind of periodically. So I really kind of want to just hammer out as much as we can there. So starting first is let me just kind of go through a quick summary, if you will, for where we're at current well, I guess in this moment. Exactly. So I believe from the announcement I put out yesterday, I don't think a lot has really changed from there. So I'll kind of just give a little overview top down. So from there, we had 264 players that were confirmed. Again, this could be a little less than whatever the current number is, because I know usually I've been going through it once a week, and I'll just go through all the reactions, and I'll just look at who's still in the server versus who's not in the server. It does take some time, because you have to, again, unless I see a name and I recognize that I've seen them recently post. Otherwise, I have to click on each person's name individually from the reactions and then go to their profile. And then I have to right click profile and see if we're in the same server. Or if I don't have a lot of messages, then you can scroll to the top for those of you that are familiar with that. If you've messaged someone and you don't have a long chat history, you can go to the very top or first message of your history, and it'll actually give you a brief preview of what similar servers you're all in. So, again, that does take a little bit of time, but it does at least give us a more accurate and hard indication on those that are still in the server versus not to give us good numbers. So from there, we were at about 66%, which was really cool because if you think about before, we were at around, I think it was 70, 75% before I even did any filtering or purging from that list. And then it went down to, I think, a little above 50. So to see it climb back up now, and more so because I also actively purge the server. So I know probably some other servers you guys have been in, you probably notice, there's a lot of people in there. I do 7-day purges on my server every day. So I go through it every day, once a day, and I'll click on the roles that we have available for people to select, and I purge it. So that way players know that, the amount of people that are actually here in the server are active players and people that have a higher chance of being active. And so that also, I'm also doing that for the RoK jumper role. So even though we have new people coming in, anyone that's been inactive over a period of time, they're being removed, which means that then, a less likely chance we're getting bad margin of errors or poor margin of errors there for people that are more likely to select a sign-off reaction rather than not. And it also gives you more of a higher activity, more authentic number there when it comes to the actual RoK jumpers themselves. As far as positions go, again, all positions are still open, right? So even though we've announced leaders, the 6 leaders so far, we're still looking for more leaders. So, 6, as we've always said, is just the minimum number. But if we can get more, that's always great. So anyone is, of course, encouraged and more than welcome to apply for that, along with any of the other positions, right? I'd love to take leaders and officers, all the way up until before we make it to Final Kingdom, whether it's a day or two before. And to be specific here, when it comes to applying, the application process is really for before we get to Final Kingdom. After that, alliances will start to identify leaders in those alliances, other officers that are there, right? They'll work together to identify potential future officer candidates once we land in Final Kingdom. The player distribution, the application processes, those are really to help before we get to Final Kingdom. Once we get there, then some of those things will change. For example, departments will probably be still similar if people want to apply for those. If we end up taking on more leaders at that time, we'll make an announcement. But really, for people that are interested in becoming officers, those things will be handled more internally within the individual alliances themselves. Or if someone just wants to apply and be an officer, and then they just want to be placed somewhere, right? Like, as in they don't care where they go, then, I guess they could technically still use the officer application. But some of those things in short, may just slow down a bit. Then we get to sign-off channel, right? So the last, this is the next big thing when it comes to sign-off is just, the best thing I really tell people is just be sure to read that, right? Read that all the way through, have a good understanding of what you are signing up for, no pun intended. Have a good, just again, if you have any questions there, always ask. Beyond that, the next big thing is just really, join somewhere that you want to be a part of. Join somewhere that you're going to be happy playing in or with. And so, with that in mind, everyone has a choice for where you want to play. If you feel as though you're 80% on board with something, to be honest, you might not want to do that. I think it's better for people to be closer to 100%, if not 100% on board with something, regardless if you agree or you disagree with everything or some things. In order for projects to be successful, there has to be a respect level. There has to be an understanding and a loyalty level there to a fault, where people are joining something because they really truly believe in it at its core, even if you might argue semantics here and there, or small things, or maybe the process from getting to A to Z, right? There really has to be a belief in something in order for people to want to support and follow it through, going that route, going that direction. So again, just something to keep in mind when you are going there and you're, deciding if this is the project for you. Otherwise, as always, I recommend doing your due diligence, researching other projects, and joining one that really fits what you're looking to do. Otherwise, you can always have the opportunity to make your own project, right? There's always that option too. And if you're interested, I have guides on that. So, okay. Then we get to the recruiting. Obviously, a big shout out to those. I know there's some new people that have been posting ads as well on other Discord servers, so I do appreciate that. Along with any additional assistance and help that we've been getting in those areas. It has really just been awesome. Really a good effort across the board for our recruiting initiative that we've been doing. I think we've really been gaining a lot of good traction, and I'm sure probably these next couple days up until when we finally decide to jump, and even when we get into our first kingdom, we're probably going to start to see a little bit more of an influx as far as people joining, which is pretty standard once you're going, because oftentimes you'll see people that will want to try and join projects that are a day out, 2 days out, day of, right? If they just started, you might even catch some stragglers that are solo jumpers that have already started their accounts, but they haven't joined any projects yet, and they're looking to kind of tag along somewhere. So those could happen, and will be a nice, bump up. I think based on the numbers we have right now, I think there's a great opportunity for us to get to about 300 confirmed players. At least by the time we jump, and I think that's a good and realistic goal that we can try and hit over the coming days, which would be awesome. I mean, that would probably be my third or fourth largest group that I've done so far, but I think really good, stable numbers. Then we get to the kind of study up portion, right? Jump Resources is your friend. Just be sure to take time to read that information there. Even my jump guide that I did, pretty much 90-95% of what's in there is still relevant to what you're going to do as a jumper from your day one process up until, a week or two going into Final Kingdom. And then, of course, we have the leader announcements, right? So I'm still collecting. I think I have 1 or 2 more resumes I'm just waiting to get from 1 or 2 more leads. And then once that happens, I'll be posting those. Once they post those in the jump resume, then I will revisible or reactivate. I'm not sure what word I'm looking for there. That sounds better than the 2 I just said. But I will make it publicly viewable again for those to read those once we have all of them in there. Beyond that, I guess the very last thing is just talking Kingdom. So Kingdom right now, I am actually revisiting possibly going to a Kingdom that is already defogged. I know I said in the last announcement we were considering going to a brand new Kingdom. Possibly considering going to a Kingdom now that has been defogged. so a few reasons. When I was thinking about it, I thought to myself, the initial reasoning was for everyone to kind of go through that fogging process to get familiar with it, so they might just be better prepared going into Final Kingdom, even though it's not it's not rocket science at the end of the day when it comes to defogging. But then also just considering the fact that we have a consistent timing for Lohars, because we know that Lohars happen for that, I believe it's a 3-day period. And I'm forgetting right now off the top of my head if it starts on the second day or the third day of a new kingdom. Unless that's changed. Someone is more than happy to correct me if I'm wrong. I've been planning to make another account in the newest kingdom just so I can retest that. Also because if we're going to start in an older kingdom, we'd have to make sure that we're checking the calendar in advance to make sure that Lohars are popping up there. So that's the main thing. So basically what's going to happen now is I'll spend today doing that. If there's anyone out there, obviously, that wants to help, you're more than welcome to. But the main thing I just need to figure out is if there is a hard specific time when a kingdom is unfogged already at around that 55-day plus, where Lohars are just always happening. For example, is there a Lohar event all the time at 57 days or 60 days into a kingdom? So whenever we find that out will be when I'll make a decision there. But in short, that's a pretty easy thing. It's not going to take a long time to figure out. That might take a day at the most. So hopefully because then I also have to do, then the other second part to that is I have to do the timing intervals again. So I have to do another interval round of figuring out what the current opening intervals are between new kingdoms coming out, just to make sure that things line up for what I'm looking at, and that'll basically let me know, are we going to jump on the 5th, the 6th, or the 7th, right? So that's kind of my 3-day window right there that we're thinking about, because the plan really is to try and start around the middle kingdoms, like the middle to the end of a continent, so we have enough time to go through or finish off that continent and then go through a whole new continent, so we can try and land on the first or the second kingdom of the next new continent. So that's the hope right now as far as where we're aiming. At least that's based on the last intervals. Because I'd like to try and be the first kingdom on a continent if we can, second kingdom as a backup, just because of some of the the day advantages that you get there with just being a little bit ahead time-wise compared to other kingdoms on the continent. Not that I think it really matters at the end of the day. I mean, I've done projects where we were the last kingdom on the continent. We were the 7th kingdom, second to last or 7th kingdom on a continent that opened. So I don't think that's going to be hugely impactful. But if it's something that we can try to time out, I'd love to, of course. And then I think that probably breaks down everything else. I guess the very last thing I'd mention is that, we'll eventually be looking for people who want to run events on the server. We'll probably do that after we get settled in Final Kingdom. But if there's ever people that want to, do things like, for example, I know in the last project we worked on setting up, like an anime watch night, movie nights, game nights, Cards Against Humanity nights, things like that. Whether that's GameBot, doing charades, or doing something that kind of uses another website or application where you're just kind of gathering people to hang out. And obviously, hanging out kind of just in voice chat or this voice chat throughout the day or the general one in Fun Voice above. People are more than welcome to. You'll probably start seeing me hanging out there more often once we just get things settled and there's just not as much. Yeah.
I just came back.
Okay, did you close the door? Okay. Close the door, please, if you didn't close it. But anyways, yeah. So that pretty much covers, I think, everything I wanted to touch on here for these first, what it seems to be 12 to 13 minutes. So with that in mind, I'm just going to go ahead and open the floor up now. If anyone has any questions on anything I touched on, if you want to ask something else, feel free. That is pretty much the bulk, though, of where we're at right now. And we have done our officer distribution already. We're still waiting to get some more officers on. I think right now we're hoping to try and look at about 4 officers minimum per lead. And then we're going to start doing player distribution possibly as early as today, if not over the next day or two. But the hope is that will be done a couple days at most before we do jump. And then we'll put out a list of people leaders will get in contact and reach out. So we have a process I just wrote up actually before the meeting started for the leaders to see if any of them are able to help and assist in that regard, just pending the availability that each has over the next couple of days, because I know we are coming up to July 4th and the weekend starts today. Okay, so with that in mind, that's pretty much it for my spiel. I'll just go down the list right now, top down, for how it looks on voice chat. Again, if you have a question, if there's something you want to ask, if not, you can pass. If you want to type it, you want to voice it, you're more than welcome to put that in the Jump VC chat. And again, you can post that there. With that in mind, let me start at the top. So who do I have here? Let's go 2F. Okay. 2F. Sorry, yeah, go ahead, 2F.
Hello, Bobby. That's
Okay. We can totally come back. Your mic was kind of working for a moment there, but if it's easier to text, feel free, of course. Yeah, I'm just looking around right now. Exactly, man, dude. Next person. All right, no worries. Okay, let's go, Zach, man.
Okay, I got two questions.
Yeah.
So, when we get into an alliance, will all the alliances have Discord pages?
As far as their own servers.
Yeah, on Discord, yeah.
Yeah, so if they want to, they're more than, again, we do encourage that. So, the hope really in the ideal system is to have the alliances have their own Discord servers, and that way they can have their officer chats, they can have, just a couple things. Keep it minimal is usually my strong recommendation. Less is more sometimes, and you can kind of build out from there. You try and get as many people to come in as you can to your alliance Discord, right? You're just constantly promoting that, constantly messaging members. And I mean, I've even seen some alliances do something where, and Ghost had a great and he'll probably do this again, but I thought he had a really good idea where, I think he did something where people that joined the Discord were R2s and everyone else was just an R1. Or he maybe did it R3 and R2. I think Rizzo was there in his alliance. But I thought it was a great way to approach it early on. So that way you would know, okay, cool. If everyone's R2, they're in Discord, right? They've been here for a while. Then you're kind of going from ranks. Otherwise, if they're not in Discord, everyone stays in R1. I thought that was a really good way to organize it, which is just another way to kind of utilize ranks in game. Whether or not leads want to do that is obviously completely up to them. I'm not saying they have to, but I did think that was a very unique way of approaching it because it does help you kind of keep track of it in-game without having to kind of go on Discord, look at someone's name, unless you just want to have a list that you write down of all the members currently in the Alliance. But because early on, and even possibly up to the midway point, fluctuations happen. You're going to have people joining and leaving. So kind of going off of a real-time list in-game, I thought was a good approach. But as far as them having their own alliance discords, yes. The Kingdom Discord that this server is going to have, as far as a portion of it, that is mainly going to be for our Kingdom chat, world chat, if you will. We'll use this to organize events. We'll use this for town hall meetings. We'll use this for management discussions, officers, leaders, and then etc. Right? If we do polls or things of that nature, anything else, that'll be done here. So this is more of our management organization kind of event social hub. And then the individual alliances, if they're doing events or, they're doing their Osiris's, right, or arcs, right, they can do those there. If you guys are setting up siege events or whatever it may be, then those are kind of opportunities for you to have the kind of individual or more alliance-based engagement. but definitely hope and would anticipate both to be how we're going to set up. Okay, cool. Yeah. So sorry. Was that both questions? I'm drawing a blank.
Yeah, that was
Okay.
it. The second one was going to be about the Kingdom chat or the Kingdom Discord. So you got it. Yeah.
Okay. Sweetness. Nice. Okay, let me go next here. Who do I got? Armin.
I've got no questions.
No questions. All right. Silence is golden, as someone once told me, but I don't know if that's entirely accurate. So, but all right, no worries. Thanks. Cannonball.
Nothing for me.
Nothing. All right. Well, thanks. And let me see here. John Doe. So intense. Let's see. John Doe's going. Let's do this. John said, "Okay, you're gonna pass. No worries. Let's go to lucrative."
قاعد يكلمون ايش هذه؟
ايش في؟
What?
Okay, I didn't hear too much there, but if you want to type it in the VC chat, you're more than welcome to. Let's go to how about Persephone?
It's Persephone, and I'm just wondering how will territory management be done for the alliances, like what zones and stuff?
Yeah, no, a good question. So that'll pretty much be the next thing that we'll do. So once we get all the players distributed and we kind of, because those are really the big things, like the most time intensive stuff is really just doing the player distribution. After that, we already have some preset territory maps that we have, so we'll pretty much just fill that in. So like we already have a breakdown of how we did it of how I've done it in previous projects. So we have kind of a base template that splits up zone 1 into thirds, and essentially what will happen is that one alliance will just take a third, whatever third they want, or that I'll just assign them to, unless there's something really big. Usually I'll try and in past, typically what I'll do is I'll place the alliances where they'll at least have one of each sanctum, and then the two ideal altars, right, or the best two altars out of the third splits is typically how I go about placing, so that way each alliance is in an ideal position, but also to grow just in case if needed. Sometimes that can be maybe, again, it just depends, because not when you're splitting the provinces up into thirds, you're going to usually have one third that's going to be a little bit more favorable than another. Also, positioning is important because you want to make sure that the third you're giving them not only has ideal structures, but has good access to zone 2, so you're not really having to kind of fight or have a little bit of an uphill battle. So, but at the same time, the 1/3 split to start in is really just that, right? It's an initial starting point, so that way you have flexibility depending on how the province develops, where if you need to expand a little bit, then you can. But it's just with the intent that we don't want to do that right away, right? We're not going into a kingdom saying, mine. We really want to present ourselves in a way that will allow for those looking at us to say, wow, they're like really organized. They're not trying to come out and take everything. And, they're very, not resilient, but very maybe tame. There's a better word I'm looking for that I can't find right now. But that in short is the plan. So as far as those structures, same thing with zone 2, right? We're going to split zone 2 into a third, just like we have it listed in the, wherever it is, in the jump plan section. So, and then for zone 3, right, we're kind of going up to 9 or ninths, if you will, depending on how many. But 6 to 9 alliances is kind of the ideal. A lot of it is just going to depend on how zone 1, zone 2 play out in the beginning, but we definitely want to give a good growth and developing environment that we create, so we can have as many alliances stay active for as long as possible, all the way up until Zone 3, so that way we get better conversion percentages from home kingdom to KVK.
Okay, and just one last thing.
Yeah.
If I remember right, there's more than 3 zones. Will the spare zones be kind of for the natives to the kingdom to like develop on their own, or are they going to be kind of grown into as time goes on?
As far as the other thirds that we're not occupying?
Yes.
Okay. No, good question. Yeah, so those ones, the hope really for that is to be the hope there is to try and have, you know, the next 2 strongest alliances in that province fill into those thirds, right? Where we're, you know, over time, you can kind of tell in the beginning, you know, who's getting their fortresses down early, who's expanding early. And the hope is to try and do a lot of that diplomacy early on, where you're trying to kind of look at it from a high percentage, you know, like you're playing poker, so to speak, right? You're looking at the high percentage numbers of, okay, these 2 alliances other than ours look to be like they're progressing the most. Let's reach out to them and see if we can start already assisting them, supporting them to fill into these thirds, so that way they're expanding more efficiently and not doing something where they're going to have to relocate, or where one of our alliances are going to have to relocate, or worse, right, we end up kind of getting into a fight, so to speak. So that's really what a lot of that early global diplomacy helps out with, that we'll do early on. In the past, Ghost and I usually handled the global diplomacy early on. And then once things were settled and stabilized, we allowed for the alliances in those provinces to set a specific diplomat that would handle all diplomacy within that province. So it was kind of like a nice transition, just because in the beginning, having you know, more of single points of contact, fewer people that are in those discussions, just allows for things to flow a little more smoothly, especially if those individuals like myself and Ghost have plenty of time to do, you know, compared to if they're talking with 6 different people, right? Just because an alliance is in a province doesn't mean they're only going to reach out to that diplomat in that province. Most of the time, they're usually reaching out to people that are on the top of the leaderboards that may not necessarily be in their province. So it's a lot easier when, you know, we come out and we say, hey, this one or these 2 people are doing diplomacy. Please reach out to them, right? So everyone's funneling those people appropriately. Just like once we transition, then it'll go to a diplomat from each of the alliances, which will designate, and everyone will know who those people are. But the hope is to try and have at least 2 other alliances, and ideally the 2 emerging alliances from the province outside of ours, where we can help facilitate them to fill into those positions. We did it really well in the last project for 2777. Of course, there's hiccups. There always will be some. But overall, for how Zone 1 played out, I was extremely happy with how things went. And it went, I felt, a little easier than previous projects have gone. So,
Thank you for your time.
of course. And then, sorry, who else do I have here? Let me see. Dun, 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 dun. Who just? Let's go down. Rizzo.
No questions.
Okay. Do the kiddos have any questions?
Yes, many, but no, thank you.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. Shadow, you're up.
I have no questions.
Okay. Being sent to Okay, who do I have next? Trip. Trip it.
He said no questions.
Trip. No. Okay. Cool. Groovy.
No questions.
All right. I'm just gonna go with Was or WG. I feel more confident in my pronunciation for that. Or I probably should say enunciation. No questions. Okay. Aziz. Z's nothing. All right. Maury or Terry. Sorry. Or I guess it is Jin Maury. Think there. Let me see. Let me see. Mike's. I think Jin said none. Okay. Mike's face. Yeah, 2F. Go ahead.
Yo. Was it working good?
Yeah.
Alright.
Hit us
First
with it.
question. How shell alliances work? Like pre-KVK, maybe a month out or week, 2 weeks maybe?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Tell me that one more time.
How shell alliances work? Like pre-KVK1, etc.
Yeah. No, so good question there. With the shells, the plan there is to have one prepped shell per alliance. So if we have 6 alliances going in, we'd like to have each alliance make one alliance or make an additional. So that way they can primarily put their farms there, can also use it as a potential, second alliance just to bolster up, but primarily using it to just develop tech and then have those additional shells ready to go. Once those start to develop or they get to an ideal state, whether it's max tech or just the ideal tech that you would really want. Typically, you want to try and have a certain amount of max tech alliances when you're starting out, specifically ones that we have control of, right, as far as R5. And then from there, you usually would start building out shell or KVK shell alliances where you're just kind of min-maxing them for certain tech and then, skills, whatever else you might do, but you don't necessarily need to max tech those out, in my opinion at least. So for there, that's kind of how we would start out. We would mainly use those shells for migration purposes early on, just have those available, and then of course be able to use them in KVK when the time comes. And then once we get to a more stable point, we would start working on additional shells in a very organized and routine way, where we're kind of prepping shells back to back to back to try and have as many as we can. If we could have 50, 75, 100 shells for their uses in KVK, just for anytime situations may come up, we'll have those available. In previous projects, we have a list of everything. So we keep track of who owns the shell, what are the stats on the shell, how is it developing, where it is, how much territory does it have. If someone is leaving or someone steps down, usually we're kind of working on like a co-system. So typically if you have the main person we'll have another officer or another leader that just puts a second account there as a backup, just in case. So, it might be the lead and then one officer, for example. But usually we have those redundancies in place just in case. And we always keep track, on a spreadsheet of who has which alliances, who currently has control of them. If someone leaves, hey, can you transfer this to that person? So, we like to do that in a very organized way where we're able to take advantage of those as much as possible. Again, it's just usually in the beginning, you're typically going to have a different use for your shells and purpose for how quickly you want to develop them, rather than once those are set up and then you start developing more kind of KVK focused shells for like tactical and strategic reasons.
Yeah, so I've got like a GIF here of like, so I just don't have to screenshot something. And so like about an hour ago, I made like, what an emulator is?
Yeah.
Made about like 20 maybe, and I haven't really done the tutorial, but I was thinking that I've got a buddy in here. His name's not Bape, I think, not Ghost. His name's not Ghost, and he's just got a default profile picture. So we do a lot of stuff with like emulators and shit, and just multi-accounting in general. Nothing like botting, nothing like that. Just yeah, I was thinking that maybe we could make multiple shells, because with 20 emulators you got about 40 accounts, and you can do 48 donations, I think, in a day. So yeah, I mean, it just take a lot of the load off of people who don't have as much time, I guess, is what I'm saying. So I'll just post it. So it's just 20 emulators and pretty much 40 accounts. So,
Oh, got you. Yeah, so, I mean, we did, so I guess kind of two parts here. If you're saying that as far as just making a bunch of shells just to have them, and then, having those, like if you're using macros, and it may not be like full script botting, so to speak, then, I mean,
no, nothing like that.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
It's really, really simple. You just get them to City Hall 5 and they make resources on their own, and you kind of just log in every 10 hours, I think. That's when you get 20 donations, and yeah, it's really, really simple. So no botting, no foul play, nothing like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, and I mean, I think even with doing that, and even just the macros in general, doing those for simple things, I don't think I've ever heard of any, situations of people getting banned for those. If you're just kind of going in and doing fog, I think it's more so for, the people that are, RSS botting hard for KVKs, and they're, really either using full macros or full scripts, at least from what I know. But yeah, if it's nothing like that, or at a very low level to do something in that regard, yeah. So two things here. One, when it comes to prepping or making as many alliances as we can, of course, getting the shells made is great. However, unless someone is going to sit there with 100 accounts, and they're going to put 50 in each, and they're going to go through each one and donate, so to speak. Don't get me wrong, that'd be great. This is something that we did in Infinity Kingdom, which I think is something I'll touch on as well. And then I think it might be a little bit more of where you're going with this too, is where we would do things such as tech boosting. So what we would do is I had I think 15 accounts in one kingdom. I had to use 5 different emails for it. Because you can have 3 accounts per email in Infinity Kingdom. And so I had 15 accounts, and I basically put all 15 accounts into the main alliance. And because we set a limit, right? Because we only had 15 to 20 or 25 at probably the highest points. But basically what it allowed for you to do is to boost tech development. So you could get to higher member capacities faster, you could get to techs faster, so you're developing at a faster rate because you're hitting those bonuses faster than other alliances, just from the tech side. And then once you get to max tech, then you just take all those farm accounts and you move them to the next alliance. And then you basically just tech boost all day long. And once you run out of gems, then you get rid of the accounts, you make new accounts, and then you're just basically refreshing, so you're always constantly tech boosting. The only delay you have is just the 24-hour, whatever the cap is, before you can do it.
That's pretty much it. And it's like, if they all get somehow deleted or banned or anything for any TOS issues, it's literally like 15 minutes to get them to CH5, because you got all of them like pressing help at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really, really simple, and I wouldn't mind doing that if you're alright with it and shit. So
yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I'll put something out too as well for anyone that wants to, make. I mean, because we'll usually even my last 2 projects or few, we put something out where we told people, hey, look, if you guys want to help us, just make alt accounts and tech boost shells or tech boost domains, I'll put a little guide out for that. It's funny. I'm actually shocked that more people don't do it. That it's not something that is more widespread. Like, I don't know if I've ever seen a video from a content creator talk about it before. I mean, that might be for somewhat obvious reasons depending on their viewpoints. But I'm just shocked I don't ever see that talked about on like the RoK general chat or RoK questions on the official Discord.
It's a pretty niche thing, you know what I mean? Like, just multi-accounting in general in mobile games, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, it's just the thing is, it's so impactful. I mean, I think that's the thing people don't really realize is, you can really speed up how fast you max tech out an alliance from doing it if you do it efficiently way sooner. I mean, I remember even just in Infinity Kingdom, another game, I mean, we were, my alliance versus the second alliance, we were weeks ahead of them by the time we hit max level before their alliance did, just from doing that. And we didn't even do it as efficiently as we could have. And so, it does make me wonder how possibly efficient it can be here in RoK. But
Really, yeah, it's like all you really need is like 50 gigs of space on like a hard drive and a reasonably good computer, and you can pretty much just have 200 shell alliances, like really, if you wanted to.
yeah,
So,
yeah. All right, guys. Well, hey, that's probably going to be it for me. So I'm going to go ahead and get off
I
a
got a
little
quick question.
abruptly.